this is Wicked Spursy, Mike, Steve, and the ever-present, ever-illustrious Brian from Rhode Island. Gents, it is Sunday. It is just about the end of February. We got another weekish to go. How are we all feeling today?
I've said this before. I'll say it again. When Tottenham Hotspur win a football match, it just it changes my entire week. So, feeling all right.
And how about you, Miguel, as they say in our Latin American countries?
Denata? No, this is wrong. Anyway, I gotta tell you, man, okay, so a pretty decent Saturday, right? I mean, pretty decent Saturday. When was the last time we got to see Tottenham Hotspur win a football match and Arsenal and Chelsea lose a football match on the same fucking day? How cool is that?
That's lovely.
It was pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie.
I went down to the Soccer Post. Jacob Labovitz, our one of our Vermont Green players, our former Vermont Green players, owns a soccer store, and it's got all kinds of kits and all kinds of shit. But he's a local guy. We go down there, and Lucas needed some new outdoor shoes for the upcoming. He starts outdoor practice in 2 weeks, believe it or not. So we need new outdoor shoes. So we went down to support Jacob in his store and stuff. And we got to watch Chelsea fucking fall apart. It was because he had the game on in there, so it was pretty nice. Nice to see while we were getting Lucas, a very overpriced pair of soccer boots. So, but after that, went down to dropped Lucas back off at home. Went down to Howell Beer. It's a German beer hall that we have in Winooski, Vermont here. Drank quite a few imported German beers, and had a great time doing it. I did. Hill Farmstead had an offering there too. It was like an oak aged dark lager, and it was also delicious. So I had a good night. I did get to spend the night with a couple of Gooners. Which is fine as long as they don't talk about their team and their injury woes. But it was nice. Gunnar Will was nice as usual, and Dan just didn't talk, which is good. So
I gotta say, the nicest part about this whole experience, this whole weekend of victory, has been the incessant complaints about, our injuries. That's come on, guys, grow up. We've been playing with 18-year-olds for half the season now, and this is the hill you want to die on. This is where you want to start making your excuses. On the plus side, it does seem like, at least from a social media perspective, they're getting turned on. I've seen quite a few bottling memes, which is nice when it's not directed our way. But I digress. We spent a lot of time talking about those scumbags. How about we spend some time talking about our favorite team, Tottenham Hotspur, not to be referred to as just Tottenham anymore, per the club.
I was wondering when the first mention of that was going to be in this podcast. So I was going to set the over under at 5 minutes, and congratulations at 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Woo! We did it. We did it. Tottenham Hotspur, or Spurs, not the Spurs. Spurs.
Just Spurs.
Yeah, we're not San Antonio, all right? Let's focus on what's important here. We had a game versus relegation contender, and we were convincing. Is that did I remember that right? Was that possible?
Convincing against a relegation fodder team, yes.
Well, let me stress convincing after the first 10, 15 minutes, because the opening salvo was a little bit rough.
I agree. I mean, I like it so much when we beat teams handily that we should beat. Even back in the Poch era, I felt like there were I think 2 seasons where we got most of our points playing big teams and we lost most of our points by, like losing to like Leeds and people like that.
Sheffield United.
Sheffield United. Like, this is what like a professional, like, we're not fucking around soccer team looks like, I think, like it. And yeah, the first 10 minutes, again, I kind of go back to like, there is a blend, and we talked about it when we were losing like crazy, right? There is something to be said for experience, and I think it was just still a little nervy out there. And then they were like, "Oh, we can fucking take these guys," and then they went and they did it, and it was beautiful. But just one of the most consistently annoying and sadly consistent things about the performance of Tottenham Hotspur or Spurs, since I've become a fan of them, is that inconsistency against lower level teams. We just seem to lose maddening matches in maddening fashion. And so it's always in the back of your mind. I personally thought that they were going to come out looking for blood after having lost to Ipswich last time. And I think they did. And it was great to, it's like, man, this is really what can happen when we get our, preferred, real first team players back. It was kind of incredible. So great day. We didn't do the thing we often do. So thank you, Tottenham Hotspur.
We weren't the bottlers this time. No, but it was, especially after, the nerves settled, because, Ipswich, they're a team with nothing to lose. And I think that's what makes some of these relegation candidates a little bit dangerous to play, particularly as the season gets older. But yeah, they came out guns blazing. They just couldn't keep up, and not for lack of the ref trying to help him out a little bit. That
was some bad reffing. Jesus,
it was atrocious. It would have been better, I think, if it was just consistently bad. But it was let me pick and choose which contact is a foul that really drove me nuts. And again, I have to ask, what's the deal with VAR if they're not going to intervene in certain things? Mike, I want to turn this to you because this was in my opinion, a pretty clear-cut instance. But Danso getting shoved in the box, no call at all. What do you make of that?
So I feel as though, who was it? Was it Godfrey? I think there was a moment of, I think that if VAR should have intervened. I still don't know that it would have been given had they intervened. Obviously, if it was Godfrey, I think it was Godfrey, but like whomever it was, they certainly weren't trying to play the ball.
Well, that's exactly it, right?
But I think the call was probably somewhere around like, well, he didn't have an opportunity to get to the ball, and the ball was already going out. I mean, there's a number of things you could point to. In the end, it turns out that it didn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, that was just kind of emblematic of the entire reffing situation for the entire day. And I think at the end he tried to make up for it by blowing the whistle too much. But he had already lost control by that point. Like I said last week, Ipswich was a team that's like, they're nothing to lose. It's the dog backed, the starving dog backed into a corner type of a thing, where they were going to come out and they were going to play their game. And to the credit of their manager, they didn't change the way they played. They didn't back into a low block and counter, type of a park the bus situation at all. And I think that's to the credit of the manager. They came out swinging hard, and it's just they're back forward defensively. Just there was no way they were handling Tottenham Hotspur. Even like a half dead, overused Heung-min Son. He, speaking of Godfrey, he terrorized him almost all of the day.
Yeah.
And it didn't end when Son came out, and he had to deal with Audebert. I do want to point out some stuff, because Brennan Johnson again was getting some online abuse from our own fans. He was getting some WhatsApp abuse from one of our own members here on this podcast. But no,
Was it you?
what's that?
Was it you?
No, I think it was somebody had said Brennan Johnson is useless.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that
To
was
be
you.
fair,
So Brennan Johnson
yes.
does two things very, very, very well. One is being ultra speedy, ultra fast, and arriving at the back post for a cross or a pass in. He's very good at running in from behind. He is ultra speedy, and I think that there's a reason he's out there.
Look, I gotta be
Well,
honest.
despite the lack of options, but there's a reason he's out there in that position, and I think that Decky would have been out there if Ange didn't think it was the type of game where we were going to abuse them in that way.
I gotta be honest, for the criticism that I throw on him, sometimes if I'm a defender out there, I would be afraid of Johnson from behind. That just doesn't seem like something that would really rub me the right way. And he's got to be terrorizing people with the just popping up unexpectedly, going in hard and getting some of these these goals scored. Somebody stop me.
I was just like, I can't believe he's still going. This is incredible.
Brian,
Yeah.
There's something that I think Mike alluded to it a little bit, talking about our left wing, but I would love to hear you expand a bit on just the luxury that we have now of being able to actually sub players in,
Praise the Lord.
like for like players, not just 18-year-olds who
Yep.
we got to take this guy off because he's on death's door. Like we made some smart ass subs again.
Mm-hmm.
How's that for you?
It is. I mean, it's like after what we've been through this season. It's like it's almost like it takes a minute to remind yourself that we actually really are like a big time football club. Like when you can legitimately, bring on, I think it was Poro came in for a doggy, right? Was that right?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. I mean, right there, you got two national team starters basically, and you can bring one off the bench to sub in the other to get some rest. You can take off Brennan Johnson, who is, when he's been healthy, has been absolutely on fire for club and country, and you bring in James Madison, who, while he's been, I still blame the injury, but he's one of the great playmakers in one of the toughest leagues in the world. So like,
And he showed it. He showed it yesterday.
he did. You want to talk about terrorizing? He was a maestro out there. He was incredible.
That close control, like, yeah.
See,
He's
I'm
awesome.
still stuck on the imagery of Johnson on fire. That seems like something you'd want to get checked by a medical professional. Maybe get some testing done. It's pretty routine.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, like it feels nice to have that luxury of being able to say, like, you just to remind yourself that shit. Like, I mean, can you imagine, like, just that front line when healthy is Tell, Solanke, Sonny, Johnson. Who am I missing?
Odebear.
Wilson.
Odebear.
Wilson.
And then right behind that, you've got Decky, Bergvall, and Madison. Like, I mean, like that right there. That is class and a half, man. Those are badass options to have, and it's so nice to see them back in matches, rotating real. Like, I mean, that's the other thing is the rotation shit. Is just getting everybody some match time. We're gonna get some European experience with some people who I just it's great. It feels great. I can't wait for the rest of the guys to come back. But everybody and you can tell like the effect of rest on these guys. They're playing better. They don't look gassed from the 15th minute onwards. We're not scraping by. We're doing what we should do for a team that is set up this way with this much firepower playing for Ange Postecoglou. You should win games 4-1. Like that's the whole idea, is just battering people into submission, basically. And we finally actually have been doing that for several games in a row. It feels pretty good. I would say even a 1-0 victory over Manchester United, that was a one-sided affair. No matter, I don't care who you are. They had some chances, and probably owe a bit to Vicario, but also that's the game. It was not a really close 1-0 victory, in my humble opinion.
Speaking of Vicario, he's certainly brought some vibes back. I mean, the scenes of him getting a piggyback ride from Danzo after the game were pretty nice to see. Mike, do you think having Vicario back has helped settle in this honestly new back line that we've had with Danzo and Gray taking over, for the more experienced Davies, who's out injured, Romero, Van de Ven, both injured?
I like having him back there for his shot stopping ability. Still a couple of moments where he passed the ball directly up the middle to the other team, but that's
where I miss Kinski a little bit.
I mean, he's not great with the ball at his feet, but he's really, really good shot stopper. He and his ability to stop a shot and pop back up as quick as he does is outrageous. Especially when you've got a plate and two screws in your ankle. You're coming back from and ankle injuries are not something that's easy to come back from. I mean, we saw how it affected Harry Kane, in the 18-19 season and leading into the 1920 season.
That might have been the first time I heard Mike call one of the great players of our time useless.
Oh, are we still talking about Johnson?
No.
Are we stroking Johnson support?
No. No. I didn't say he was useless. I just said that Harry Kane was a struggle for him to come back from that high ankle sprain that he had for most of that at the end of that season.
I don't want to retroactively put words in your mouth, but I'm reasonably certain that while he was on his recovery path back, there were a couple games where you're like, Harry Kane's fucking useless. Like, just take the money and run. Get him out of here.
Am
I wrong? I could be wrong.
I didn't say he was useless. I didn't say he was useless, but
I would never say anything that Brian says.
I'm not into revisionist history either. So let's we'll just move on because he's in Germany now. I do want to point out he does I think give the two center backs there a bit of and we have to think a bit of confidence and the ability to at least for them to know that he's going to be back there in case there's a mistake, in case there's there's a pressure situation. But
just on exactly what you're saying, Mike. But I think for me, what I was watching was that he seems to be, and it's probably just because Kinski just doesn't know these guys as well, and he's not like Kinski's not an automatic leader on the team like Vicario is. But he seems to be directing people much more authoritatively than Kinski has done in the games that I've seen.
Well,
and again, I think Kinski's a great signing.
Yell thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yelling. I don't know. You're right. I don't know how good the direction is, but he certainly is more active in giving it.
Right. So yeah, he does that, and we also have to remember that at 21 years old, that's young for a Premier League footballer, right? So Kinski's got some years, but goalies don't. We have to also understand that goalies don't mature in professional soccer until 26, 27, 28 years old is when they hit their the start of their peak years. So we have to also understand that. So that's it. It's not to say that Kinski's not going to get there. But for my money, I we talked about him putting pressure on Vicario for the starting spot, but I think we know now that that's Vicario's spot. Kinski's going to be there for the future, and should Vicario want to move on, or there is a need for him to move on, then then he'll move on and we'll get a good payday out of him. But like for now, for me, it's got to be Vicario, and he does, like you said, give that direction. He does make the back four, I think, a little bit more comfortable and knowing that he's back there and he's going to stop those shots.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because Lucas was pointing out that he seems to have like springs in his legs. He does that same fucking dive every single time, that like jump 4 feet into the air, stretch, outstretched one hand to make a save. It's sometimes it's a maybe made for TV save, and he doesn't necessarily need to do that. But it's like he puts his ass on the line all the time, and he did a little bit of that crazy nonsense that he did when he first got here last year, right? Where he came out of the box to play the ball, and it was like, oh shit. We almost gave them an easy scoring opportunity, but I think I like Vicario back there, and he's my guy for the at least the near future.
Who's our guy collectively, though? I think everybody at this point, at least in Wicked Spurs land, is firmly on this train. Our little bit of luxury on the squad, Jade. Brian, you want to talk Jade
Spence? Dude, how much of a goddamn revelation has he been? It was absolutely incredible. Like, he's the envy of the rest of the league. He's got, on a team that is built around like energy and talent and kind of like aggression, he's a cut above everybody. He's like our best player. Like, I'd put him like if we want to go 2-on-11 or 3-on-11, we get Vicario in the back, and then just Decky and my boy Jade Spence could take out about half the teams in the championship. Like, they're so good right now. It's phenomenal. I love it. And like I just love that he's got like a chip on his shoulder. Andrew's kind of messing with him intentionally, according to the most recent interviews. He was kind of trying to make it hard for him to see what would happen. And
talk about metal.
Yeah, but I mean, talk about rising to the challenge. The guy is phenomenal. There's not a team in the Premier League that would not want him at either of the wings, right? I mean, because we now know he can play them both. Absolutely incredible. Love
what's
it.
interesting to me about that whole situation is Ange straight up was like, look, this guy's had tough love before, he's experienced it all. I just wanted to see how much he wanted it. And to his credit, yeah, he's taken it firmly with both hands, and he's run with it. He's been absolutely unplayable, completely just one of the best, in my opinion, in the league right now.
And I love that the other players can clearly see it as well, right? You can see that everybody knows that, like, dude, this guy worked his ass off to get here, and they're just like so happy that he's killing it. I mean, like Brennan Johnson scores 2 goals. Fittingly, Spence scores the third. Brennan Johnson got 2 goals, and Spence got almost as many votes for man of the match as I think, depending on which service you look at, who got man of the match, it was either Spence or Johnson, which is wild. You would think automatically the guy who scores 2 goals is probably going to be your guy.
Yeah, I think overall, though, like if you're looking overall, I think Jet Spence ended up with like an 8.2 overall compared to, I think Brennan Johnson was like a 7.7. And he got the 7.7 based on the fact that he just scored the goals and didn't do much else. He doesn't defend, that's not what he's there for. And not to take anything away from Brennan Johnson. It's just, that's not what he's there for. He's there. I know you will. He's there to be fucking fast, man. He's just there to be fucking fast. And that's what he does. And he arrives at that back post and to Son to a lesser extent, but Odegaard to a greater extent. We've been talking about that dribbly winger that we need. And this, if you have a dribbly winger on that opposite side of where Brennan Johnson is, someone who can take a man on and get free and make a pass. I mean, this let's call it what it is. It was Ipswich, right? So yes, that doesn't mean that Son is back, right? It just means that he had an easier and he's an easier opponent today because he's not necessarily back. He's getting back to health, and he's getting back to a little bit of fitness and getting some rest in. But having somebody like Odebear there, who's got speed, who's got handles, and can cross a ball as well. We'd be stupid to not want Brennan Johnson back, on that back post, just touching balls in when he needs to, and he showed that he can finish from a little bit of distance too.
Do you remember when like 10 assholes on Twitter were really pissed off? They're like, "Oh, Brennan Johnson needs like remedial finishing," because he was doing all those finishing drills with like Ryan Mason, and they're dedicating time to it last season and this season. Well, hey, you 10 assholes out there who were cynical about it, it's fucking paying off now. Thank you very much.
Hey, to be clear, I wasn't one of those 10.
I know, for once.
Yeah. Any professional will tell you that the best thing you can do is work on the basics constantly every single day. You don't just learn something and because you've learned it and become good at it, you can stop doing it. You have to continue to do the stuff that seems trivial and seems easy, and it takes a manager and a taskmaster like somebody like Ange Postecoglou who in training who's gonna put these guys to the sword, and I think it's gonna pay off. I mean, we're not out of the fucking murky waters yet. There are still sharks swimming around. We got some games coming up, and that's but I want to move on. What I want to move on to, Steve, is I want to get your thoughts on. I know Brian's thoughts on our favorite boy Silky Puddin', but I think that he turned his ass around midway through the first half and into the second half. I thought he was brilliant in the second half. But I want to hear Steve's thoughts on our new boy Kevin Danso.
I love Danso. I think he's one of these guys who steps in and, he's not exactly the like Romero leader on the back line, at least not yet, but he does get himself. I think it takes him a little bit of time to get acclimated to maybe the opposition, or, in this case, I think he was playing a little bit of a different position. But what I do appreciate about him is this guy, he's smart. He reads the game very well. Even if he's not the quickest, he does an impeccable job of changing the angles, closing people down, making it difficult. And he's had this streak over the last couple of games of marauding forward as well, which I absolutely love to see. It's something that Romero did really well before he was injured, and then we never heard from him again. But so it's nice that he's got that sort of confidence to step in and make some of these plays. And even, I mean, honestly, you can see Archie doing it on occasion as well, albeit not as much. But you got to remember, Danzo's been with the club for just a handful of weeks, and he's already feeling comfortable enough to really go out and put a stamp on things and be that defender that needs to, shore things up, provide some stability, some comfort. I don't really like, I love having the guy. I think he is an incredible player to have, and whether he stays on as a rotation option in the future, if we end up selling Romero and he becomes, the starter in that position, I'm happy either way, to be honest. He's an incredible addition. Seems like a really level-headed, good guy. He's vibing with the squad. You always want to see that level of camaraderie with your teammates. I mean, I mentioned him and Vicario celebrating at the end of the game. That's just the kind of thing that I love to see. They're gelling. They're in it together. They're just, it's really refreshing. It's nice to see a squad coming together. But I've got a question for you, Mike, and it's really been scratching at me. Hey, Mike, what is that logo on your shirt? Is that seaweed? Is that a dragon? What is that?
It is. It's a lake monster.
That is not the lake monster.
It is. It's
who designed that? That is not changed.
No. It was designed in the 1970s. It's Colchester High School.
They need a refresher, because that is not what the lake monster looks like. All right, that looks like some kind of weird ass sea dragon.
It is a sea dragon. It's like Chinese sea dragon.
By the way, do you know
For
who the
Colchester?
do you know who one of the all-time leading soccer scorers for Colchester High School is?
No.
Mr. Alex Clavel, friend of the podcast.
No
Really?
kidding.
Oh yeah, he played at Colchester and then at Bucknell, and he was like, I've seen him play in real life, and he's just like, you know, talk a marauding forward. Holy shit, he's like, and particularly when he gets pissed off, which does happen once in a while. He's fun to watch. He's kind of a
Excellent.
freak. So anyway,
Interesting.
shout out
I'm
to Alex
just
Clavel.
saying, they could use a refresher there. I do like the color scheme. That's a really smart, well-designed shirt that you've got on.
Colchester
Mike.
volleyball. My daughter's a
Just-
volleyball player.
Yeah, of course, but no, they can do better. They can do better on that Madison. Maybe one of these, what generation are we on? Is this Gen Alpha? Can they do
I
something
think-
about it, or is it still Gen Z?
I think if you saw it like close up, you'd be like, okay, I get it now. But it's a sea dragon, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Sea
So
Dragon D's nuts. Am I right?
hey, hello.
Couldn't help
Jesus,
myself.
that's the old wicked Spursy that I like to hear. Every once in a while, you gotta bring it back. We can't be so goddamn professional all the time here.
I can't be professional ever.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've certainly come under withering criticism for our professionalism.
From who? I think I don't want to know, but
yeah, but before we move on here, Brian, I want to turn it over to you because I want your thoughts on our other 18-year-old Lucas Bergvall.
Man, I think he's doing great. He's basically in one season become kind of like a stalwart, you know, like he was kind of forced into the position, probably way faster than anybody, including himself, would have thought possible. But I thought he's been pretty good. He's feistier than I kind of thought he would be. Like I watched his like Swedish highlight reels, and I was like, oh, this is like kind of almost like an elegant kind of player sometimes, like kind of a, you know, you got these really lovely spirited runs through the midfield and some great, you know, class touching, you know, finishes, stuff like that. And was like, you know, I had him in mind of like, I don't know, like you know, minor level kind of Swedish Xavi type, you know, that kind of play. But no, he's got some anger issues. I like it. And he's not,
Yeah.
he's also like the physicality thing. I mean, yeah, he's small. I think he's bulking up. I think he's bulked up since he got here.
Yeah.
And he's getting used to like the physicality of the Premier League, but he's dealing with it, I think, rather well. I'm pretty happy with him.
I think he is too, and I think in the case of, and I'm glad you went there with the physicality note, because like in the case of another one of our newer players, Matty Tell, I think that he's going to come along as well, and I think it's an adjustment period from Bundesliga to here to the Premier League. And with Matty Tell, for my money, like I think that he is the thing he's struggling with right now is the physicality and the speed of the game. It's not as wide open. You have defenders in your face constantly. You have guys that are not scared to pick up a yellow card if they have to. There's a lot of pushing and shoving and hand checking. Grabbing, you know, there's guys that are willing to put a shoulder into you, which you know we saw happen in a no call. It's just like I think that Matty Tell is gonna once he gets used to that physicality and gets to the level where Bergvall is right now, you know. That's when you're going to see him start to become really, really effective. And I think a lot of that work's going to come when he starts working with Solanke, when Solanke gets back into training and stuff. And, you know, I think Solanke is going to be perfect for him to show him the ropes and show him how to move and how to operate within the confines of not just Ange ball, but in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have to keep reminding myself, he's only played, I think, was this his third game with us?
Yeah.
Tell, which is some wild shit. But I mean, I feel like he's been phenomenal. I think even Ipswich, he got a lower rating on SofaScore, but we talked about this in the WhatsApp group that, and I know Steve is our resident kind of like actual tactics expert. I'm pretty sure they were playing man to man on Tell. Like he did not want him to get open. They didn't want to have crosses come in front of him. So, the fact that he's already getting that level of attention and respect from a Premier League defense, I think is probably a good sign.
It's part and parcel to the way that Ipswich plays ball. They play ball like they're a championship team.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very physical, very very like hard hat type soccer, right?
I think credit where credit is due, by the way. I mean, we haven't talked about them specifically, but I thought Hutchinson and Delap were freaking like good players. Yeah. They're really solid. I mean, and they, as
big boys.
Yeah. Big, strong. They pass well together. They play well together. Like, I think they could be starters or rotation players on any team in the Premier League, pretty much.
I mean, if Chris Wood can.
Manchester United, because they'd never be smart enough to do something like that. But.
Manchester United. Hey, if they're going to get out of the relegation zone, they've got a great opportunity for it coming right up since their next match is United. I think that's one that they could honestly probably win. Look, United's not in a good spot, and I think Amarim's kind of losing his shit a little bit. But this is not a Manchester United. This is a Tottenham Hotspur pod. Again, not just Tottenham, not the Spurs either. But we gotta stay on track. We gotta stick with what we're good at. And what are we good at, Brian?
Drinking? No.
You're not wrong.
Sorry,
I've done my share of that this weekend.
That's exactly where I was going with it.
Mike, I don't know. What are you? Are you good at any particular kinds of research or imbibing?
I am.
All of the above.
You gotta ask the question.
All right, Mike, what you drinking?
It's hey Mike. Hey
Mike. Well, you know what?
God damn it, Brian.
He even wrote it in the Google app. He was like, ask hey Mike. on the spreadsheet.
In bold.
Well, boys.
Format paint this.
To wash this terrible taste out of our mouths, or wash a terrible taste into our mouths.
What?
I have this beer for us today that I'm sure some of you have heard of. And I don't know what to make of this beer. It's garage beer.
Oh.
Garage beer is if anybody knows it's the Kelsey brothers. I didn't know it when I bought it. I just saw it and I was like, this is neat. Let's try this. It's 4% alcohol. It's
just a repackaged Bud Light.
Classic small batch brewed light beer.
It's absolutely a repackaged Bud Light.
The garage is always open, it says. Classic light beer. It said, this is the side of the can where beer brands tell their story, but we thought you would rather just drink beer with your buddies. So that's what I'm doing today with you guys. It says garage beer is light, refreshing, and made with the highest quality ingredients. Bullshit. If I like this, I'm gonna be, you know what? We'll just, it's brewed in Irwindale, California by Jock Beer. Jock, Jock, because the Kelsey brothers are a couple of jocks. All right. Fucking meatheads. Let's get into this. 95 calories, 3 grams of carbs. So right now we're basically looking at Miller Lite. I'm expecting something along the lines of a Miller Lite, Bud Light, probably light in color, straw yellow, probably piss yellow.
I'm expecting it to be identical, like 100%. It is the exact same thing. Like it's not even a this is similar to. It's no, this is
Look at
100%.
that.
Oh my god. Looks like ginger ale kind of.
Yeah, it does.
Does look like ginger ale. It looks a little more like fizzy piss.
So like a Rolling Rock or Natty Light.
Oh, don't you dare come after Rolling Rock.
It's just piss.
It's just piss, carbonated. All right, I'm gonna get into this. It doesn't smell that bad, actually. It smells like it probably is made with corn, but I don't know.
Well, are
It
they
doesn't say.
customers, or-
16 fluid ounces. Here we go. I'm just gonna drink this because I'm gonna.
Drink it like you're in a garage with your boys. There he goes. All right. All right. Here we go. Let's see. Moment of truth.
Yeah. It's not a Bud Light, Steve. It is not. It is decidedly not a Bud Light. It's not a Miller Lite. It's not a Busch Light. It's on the lower end of. Okay, so maybe this beer was left out in warm weather in a garage way too long, and that's why they call it garage beer. It's just like, yeah, I guess it's a light beer. It's crushable. You could probably drink about fucking 30 of them. And then ended up, crushable, meaning like you're crushing cans off your head at the end of your 30 pack of these. It's fine. It's not good. It's not good. It's giving me burps. It's got the carbonation of ginger ale. It tastes like it's definitely made with probably maize. It's not hoppy at all.
Look at you bringing out the maize.
Corn. It's really fucking light. There was a lime one too.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it was garage beer and then like garage beer lime.
Jesus. Capitalism was a
Give me
mistake.
another chance at this. Like there's no tasting notes on this because it's just it's beer flavored beer, I guess.
Well, we've got our guesses in, so whenever
It is so light. It's like a seltzer.
beer flavored seltzer. Ugh. I don't know.
Whatever. I guess I didn't expect much out of it to begin with. It's drinkable. It's not good. It's not great. It's not even as good as Bud Light. And I fucking hate Bud Light. But it's not poisonous. You know, there's sometimes like we'll get these beers that are just fucking taste like poison. They're trying to be something, but they taste like poison. It doesn't
Like
taste
the,
like poison.
Hoppy as wait, that was the Common Man IPA. That one was I think the worst that you've done so far.
Yeah.
Well, this one gets a 2.4.
Oh, yeah.
Son of a bitch.
I got it right.
I'm getting destroyed this season on this. It's so for our listeners' benefit, Steve guessed 2.4. I guessed 2.1. So Steve was directly on the guess.
It would have been a 2.1 if it tasted any worse.
I dedicate that 2.4 to Dave. This one's for you, Dave. I hope you're listening and you're proud of us for all we've accomplished.
Well, with all of this having been said, the only thing I'm very interested to hear what Tottenham Hotspur player you might compare it to.
Yeah, what's a Tottenham Hotspur player left out in the garage for too long?
Come on, I know who I would guess, but please.
I know what. I know you want me to say Danny Rose.
Yes, you're exactly right.
But
you can say whomever you want.
No,
there's no betting on this one.
Tanguy and Ndombele.
No.
So much promise. It smelled good. Just wasn't.
I'm shocked that you have Serge Aurier worse than Tanguy and Ndombele.
Dude, I hate Serge Aurier. I hate Serge Aurier with the. I hate Serge Aurier more than Brian hates Danny Rose. So,
do you hate him more than AI Nikki Winks loves Harry Winks?
he's on the Ben Davis now. So he's like Ben Davis is like the final leftover from the Poch era that he can grasp onto, because Nicky doesn't like to live outside of Pochettino Tottenham. So,
I mean, to be fair, his AI model is based off of the Pochettino era, so we just have to update the machine learning algorithm, I guess.
It's 2017 AI.
Look, I can't compete with the Geminis and the Chat GPTs and whatever BS Twitter is using these days, assuming that Musk hasn't, deep sixed it for contradicting him so many times. I think that's one of my favorite things, to be honest, when he goes out and he says some obvious bullshit, and then his own AI comes out and goes, "That's not entirely accurate."
Couldn't happen to a nicer Nazi.
If it looks like a Nazi and it talks like
Zeke
a Nazi.
Hiles like a Nazi, it's probably a Nazi.
Speaking of Nazis, I might open another beer.
Yeah.
Just to cope. But hey, let's look ahead. This has been Garage Beer, probably straight out of Jason Kelsey's garage. Do not recommend, I guess.
Garage Beer brewed for Jock Beer. Jock Beer is the company.
Honestly, it might just be like the Kelsey Brothers Collective jock straps.
I was gonna say it's like they boiled down the jock straps, post-game jock straps.
Let's look ahead before I get sick. We've got a fun one.
I'm the one drinking the beer.
Manchester City. We got Manchester City midweek, if I'm not mistaken. That should be an interesting one. They seem to be on a little bit of a resurgence of late.
Until today.
Not a complete resurgence, mind you. It's odd to me that it's a short week, though. There must be some kind of cup competition at the weekends. But yeah, we've got Manchester City. It's a home game. Wednesday. How are we feeling about this one? Let's go over to you, Brian.
I think it's good. I'm normally very bullish on anytime we play any of the big clubs, particularly Manchester City. I think it's going to be a really interesting test for the players that have come back. I think it'll be interesting to see, where we really want to beat a big club demands match up against we need to rotate our players intelligently and effectively so that we don't grind them to a pulp again. So I think the lineup choices are going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really fun to watch my boy Jade Spence and who he fucks up down the wing there. That's going to be one to watch no matter what. But yeah, I think it's really one of the biggest lineup questions of the season thus far, and in a season that has been plagued by holy crap, what are we going to do? Lineup questions. This is going to be a really more of an interesting one with getting a few guys back. It'll also be interesting to note who else might come back by then, right? Aren't we close on a couple other players? Van de Ven might make an appearance.
I think the last note was that it could potentially be back for AZ for Europa League.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a barn burner. I wish it were not on a Wednesday. And yeah, do we have 2 Wednesday matches in a row? I think we might.
We have a Thursday. We don't.
Yeah.
Thursday.
We don't play on Wednesdays until we win Europa League this year.
Right.
So we'll play on
Which,
Wednesdays next year.
to be clear, looking at the bracket for Europa League, I do think that we have a very solid shot, especially with most of our players recovering right when we need them to. Having the second leg of the AZ game at home, I think, is going to be huge for us. But we'll talk more Europa League probably a little bit next week, since that'll be our next game after City. But yeah, we've got City. Mike, what do you think? Do we think we're going to see Holland back for this game? Do we think we're going to have to deal with their new signing, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but seems to be
Marmouche?
lighting up? Gabagool, Gabouche,
It's Marmouche.
Marmouche.
Yeah. We're definitely gonna have to fucking deal with him.
He's been a nightmare for.
He is. Yeah. He was. He scored a beautiful goal today, but he was offside. But so I guess it wasn't a goal. But I think that Man City's gonna be tough, especially I think our center backs deal with Holland better than we would deal with Marmouche. I think that like his speed and having Doku out on the wing, it could present some real fucking problems. The good thing is, Steve, is that Porro got a bit of a rest. Dogi is there. Jed didn't get a Spence. Didn't get a Spence. He didn't get a rest. But we have rotation options. So Porro finally got some rest. Archie finally got some rest. Basuma's out there. Madison is going to be out there. I think that if this game is wide open, and we're able to play our game, we're going to present problems for them. But like, I really think that Manchester City, it's gonna be a tough game, and I don't want people going in thinking that we just own Manchester this year. That's not the way to think when you approach a team that's as dangerous as Man City. Now that said, they did get carved open by a very, very a quick winger today by the name of Mohamed Salah. Like he made Nathan Ake look stupid constantly, and it doesn't have to do with his skill on the ball. It has to do with his speed, and how he operates in and around the box. Like, so I really think that like having a strong midfield, and I think Szoboszlai scored again today. Similar attributes to Decky, strong on the ball, strong in possession. He doesn't have a left foot like Decky has, but Szoboszlai is a similar type player when playing through the middle, the center of the midfield. But I think that if the game stays wide open, we're gonna cause them some problems. I think we're looking at a loss here, but I can very easily see a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Mike. This is one that I'm not entirely looking forward to. I think it's going to be a very difficult game. I think, if we lose it, we lose it. I'm not going to be terribly upset about it, but I do think you're absolutely right. Having some of these players getting even just a little bit of rest lately is just going to make it a that much more intriguing game. Like it's not we're definitely going to lose this because everybody's exhausted and they're going to be out for revenge. But I do think it'll be very competitive. It's going to be a fantastic game to watch, I think, from a neutral perspective. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having a bit of respite after that, so we can go in fresh to the Europa League, and I'm excited to talk more about that next time on Wicked Spursy with you, because that in my opinion, is it's our only real opportunity for silverware this season now, and I do think we've got a really good shot at it. So for those of you who are equally excited for Europa, wait till next week. We're going to have a really good conversation about that.
Hey, I keep saying we're going to win the league. I didn't tell you which league.
That's fair enough. Hey, Brian coming in with the technicalities, but
maybe the conference league next year.
Yeah,
who knows? But we are getting close toward the end of the episode, so why don't we move on to some final thoughts? And you know what? I am going to go ahead and get us started with some final thoughts today. And my final thoughts are: I probably should have prepared some before volunteering to go first. For starters, but following
that's a decent first final thought.
Yep. What can I say? It's a thing. But following that, I guess I will hope that people keep their eyes open on their local communities. I know we've got town meeting day coming up here in Vermont, which is a great way to get involved in some smaller local elections, which do have a significant impact over time on things like policy and the direction that your area goes. And even though it feels like it might be kind of for naught, a little bit hopeless, if you feel like you want to be able to make a change, this is the time to do it. If you've got something local coming up, get involved, check it out, see what's going on, and make an informed decision. Don't let some Nazi jackass take control of, whatever select board position or, comptroller or whatever office is being run for, because eventually that guy is going to do something to make your life miserable, and you actually can make a noticeable change, especially for our listeners in Vermont, where it's a small state. Every vote literally does count, and it's a hugely important thing to do. So you've got time. Check out who's running. Make an informed decision, and I hope it works out in our collective benefit, because I'm really sick and tired of these fascist oligarchs taking power everywhere they can.
Amen. Shall I, Mike?
You shall.
Okay.
Absolutely. I want to hear Brian.
So for all the Sonny haters and everyone who's thrown him so much disrespect this season, I just want to point out that this is his 8th season in a row with 20 plus goal involvements for Tottenham Hotspur. So the guy is a treasure. I'm tired of people giving him crap. I think with a little bit of, I think we can just see, even just with a little bit of rest, he was back a lot closer to his dominant form of old this last week. So hopefully he can keep that up against Manchester City. But I'm excited. I'm always going to be bullish on Tottenham Hotspur. I'm big on kind of never say die, and I think we still have our season's destiny in our own hands, which is nice. It's been a hard season, but I think this is the right manager. I think this is the right group of players. I think we have to kind of keep our eyes on the prize ultimately, and I think we're gonna, to completely mix trite metaphors, we will get to the promised land. So, but yeah, that's it. Give Sonny some respect is my main final thought for the day.
Put some respect in that fucking name.
Yeah.
You know what? For my final thoughts tonight, I want to talk a little bit about just the podcasting world in general, in the world of Tottenham Hotspur podcasts, especially. We started this. Steve and I started this with Dave. This is our 4th season, I think. We're up around 170 something episodes. There are a couple of big podcasts that got me interested in doing this through the pandemic, and we did catch on a bit, and we at points we have had hundreds and hundreds of listeners. Like we had periods where we were up high on our listenership, and we've dipped a little bit, of course, and we always make fun of the the dozens of listeners that we
Dozens
have.
of listeners.
But we don't do this for money here at Wicked Spursy. We do it because we love to hang out, the three of us, and I know we keep bringing up Dave's name, and I know Dave has not been here. He he has personal reasons for not being here, and I just want to mention that Dave is always welcome back whenever he wants to, and we really, really hope that he does come back someday. But until he's ready to come back, you're going to get pretty much the three of us. Tristan every once in a while, once or twice a season, you'll get an AI version of what we call Nick Winks. But there are Tottenham Hotspur podcasts out there. What I want people to do is go out there and obviously subscribe to us, hit the auto download button. You can find our links on Blue Sky, on Instagram, that kind of stuff. But there are podcasts, smaller Tottenham podcasts, that you should go out there and support if you can. And I hate to see it, because like there was a couple that we used to listen to, Bit Spursy, out of Australia, which they were super fun guys. They kind of stopped doing their thing. There was another one that I got turned on to a couple years ago, the Plus Dave podcast, which was a couple of Tottenham Hotspur supporters, and a Leeds supporter doing a podcast together. And that was a really, really fun podcast. And I really like them. And I haven't been listening to a lot of the smaller podcasts, but the N17 Women podcast is a great one to listen to too, if you like women's football. I go out there and support some of the smaller podcasts. You obviously have the Extra Inches. You have
sorry, with all the Johnson talk, that's all I could think of.
Yeah.
You have the Extra Inch. Which is funny because the Extra Inch was spurned from the Fighting Cock, which is all dick jokes, right? So you have your big ones out there, and then you have what used to be called Hotspur America, Vasconi and those guys, like, and Vass used to be part of the Fighting Cock too. Like all those guys like that started this thing are why we're here today, and we're giving our own kind of unique viewpoint and take on what Tottenham Hotspur means to us. And whether we're right or wrong or whatever, we're just out here spewing a bunch of bullshit from our point of view. And whether we're right or wrong, we don't really care. Everybody is entitled to their opinions, and just go out there and support your smaller podcasts. Go out there and find small local football podcasts. United in Green is one of them. That's a great one if you're into environmentally and socially conscious football clubs. The Vermont Green has a great podcast out there that I host. But
it was really
find your local club. Find a podcast for your local clubs. Like, support small endeavors. That's just basically.
I want to throw out the Raising Anchor podcast, which is about Rhode Island FC.
I guess I'm gonna plug this right now. It hasn't been announced yet, but I'm gonna say it anyway. The Blazing Musket is a New England soccer website. They focus on everything from the smallest clubs in New England, the Vermont Green, all the way USL2, all the way up through the New England Revolution. And I will be co-hosting a monthly podcast about New England soccer with members of the Raising Anchor podcast, the United in Green podcast, which is mine, plus the Revolution Recap, which has been around for at least as long as the Fighting Cock has been around. So if you think of it in terms of that, like they're an iconic podcast in the MLS. So I'm going to be doing a New England soccer podcast monthly with them coming up starting in April. So
awesome.
Yeah, go out. Like I said, go out and support local soccer. Go out and support local or smaller podcasts if you can.
Good one. Good final thought there.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely. It. So let's bring it home with our final words. I guess I am Brian. Do you have a sign off?
We're winning the league.
There you go. There you go. All right, and of course, mine is the ever present coins, 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 coins.
And
Don't be an asshole. And Mike, what would you leave us with?
you know what, guys? I want everybody to go out there. The weather's going to start turning. It's going to start turning soon. It's going to start getting icy. The snow is going to start getting icy. It's going to be warm in the day. It's going to rain. And then it's going to get cold at night. Just be out there. Go out there when you're driving around on those roads. Be safe. And always, always remember to protect your mental health.
And
Tottenham Hotspur action. It's fantastic. Best thing Dave's ever done is that outro song. It's a
pretty
fucking
good.
banger.
Yeah. Where'd he get it?
I have no idea. I've looked for it everywhere and I can't find it.
Interesting.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's just the sound that he makes in his garage.